If you're driving through downtown Rockford, you may pass the BMO Centre, the Winnebago County Justice Centre, and the soon-to-be Public Library. 23 News reporter Kaylee Randall sits down with the business behind these landmark structures to learn about how Scandroli Construction approaches a new generation of building.
It's hard to drive around Rockford, Illinois and not drive by a Scandroli Construction building. Very proud of that.
Scandroli Construction has built a name for itself within the city of Rockford after having a hand in many well-known buildings. The company was first started in 1907 by Joe Scandroli Sr.'s father.
We were a partner in the county jail, which was another big project, and we also worked in the federal courthouse.
But it's more than city pride for the construction family. Joe Scandroli Sr. first laid down the foundation for what is downtown Rockford's premier entertainment venue.
In 1979, we were awarded the first phase of the Metro Center.
The way arenas are used and modernized and the way spectators watch sports today has changed. When the building was originally designed,
I remember as a little kid going to events there, and now my oldest son is going to hockey games with his buddies.
And now the Scandroli brothers get to take on their father's original work from the 70s and keep it relevant into the new millennia.
My family is very proud of them, that they could take the ball and run with it, and they've done a very good job as far as we're concerned.
we hope there's a fifth generation, and there's the relationships that were started by my father and uncle are there for potentially our kids.
Both sons say they always expected to take over the family business and work alongside their father.
On the weekends, I would ride with my dad, and we'd go out to job sites, and it would maybe be the time that the foundations were going in.
That was Kaylee Randall reporting. Some of the other major projects involving Scandroli includes the St. Thomas Catholic Church, the Chicago Rockford International Airport Terminal, and Rockford City well houses that connects the city's sewer system.